This is Saguya Hamis again from the group of companies, the design team. And as usual, we talk about structures, we talk about design. And today we are at site. Ladies and gentlemen, today I bring you our integrated structure, the one which we are building in phases, starting with a goat section. And as you can see, I think the work speaks for itself. We are in the 300 goat zero grazing integrated structure that is complete. And let me take you through a few of our features. So here what you're looking at, these are indoor feeders. As you can see here, we cannot have them on the outside, so because it's really high and you won't have a way of cleaning them from the outside, so we have them constructed inside. We have our water trough, another water trough here. We have other indoor feeders. We have partitions, as we always say. We have partitions this side. We have other bigger partitions this end, If you could look at our floor, as always I tell you, it has that space in the flooring that allows droppings of animals to go through. We shall walk down and I show you the other features we always talk about, so that you know it's not just theory, but we actually do the things we say. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is an integrated structure meant for 300 goats on zero grazing. We'll later on in time have 20 cows on the ground floor. And essentially, we want to talk about the major features that make you opt for integrated structure, but then also those things that you incorporate on this integrated structure for it to become operational, right? But before we go into all that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take you through why we have the things we have. We always talk about them, but anyway, it's always good to repeat these things, because over time you'll not need to visit a video because you've overheard them. They'll stick on your fingertip. We always partition our structures for the reason that follow below. We want to have less stress among our animals. Then to the farmer's side, we want to make it easy to manage our animal, right? These partitions, in this particular case, we have a back partition, which is the outermost one, the other side. We have kids and mothers, the one I'm standing in right. Then we have this one here for the pregnant, right? So you don't have to really combine the pregnant ones with those that have given birth, that have kids. For that person that can afford to have all these partitions, because as you can see, our client here will maintain a number of 300 on the farm. That's why we say a 300 capacity. But in actual sense, it doesn't mean that as the farm runs, she will only have 300 goats. That's why you see the space is big, and this is essentially to have that time when your animals have given birth and you have not yet reached the stage of selling them off, or you're still looking to sort them out, right? You don't have to feel like the space is late. But also, as you keep those animals, they still have to be as comfortable as they would be when you have the number you actually want in your head. What do I mean? Say you wanted to have only 300 goats or maintain 300 goats. When your animals give birth, right, and they are still kids, they have not yet come to what we call finishers, they don't have to suffer congestion. So we design this structure, giving space, giving some room of animals that will be on site, but maybe eventually are going to be sold off, to maintain the number of 300. And doing so, that means that you have to allow space in each partition that you have for back, for the mothers, for the kids. You have to still have space for them to still be comfortable, even in times of overflow or surplus in the numbers you have. So that is why we have these partitions so spacious, so that when the animals are pregnant, they still have enough room for themselves. If the kids are there are so many of them, they still have enough, so that even when the client hasn't yet maybe found market to actually sell her animals, whatever reason it may be that may lead to an increment in the total number she has on site that exceeds the 300 she wants to have, there is actually still room. Anyway, that is it about partition. Feeding troughs. Why feeding troughs? Why on the inside? Look at our weather today. Our weather is quite dull. On our way here, we were thinking it's going to rain before we even reach. In the same manner, you may be thinking, you know what, today the weather is so bad, I may not have to take the animals out of their shed, because guess what, it may rain on them, I have other things to do, so I may not really have that time. Put them out and then chase them back. What does this mean? Which options does it leave you with? Feeding them from inside. So, if you don't have these feeders, how are you going to feed your animals? That is why we provide these feeders. And then, on top of that, we want you to utilize your feeds well, so that the animals don't waste their feed. That is why we put these guards, so that animal just puts its head in, it picks whatever it can eat, then the rest stays until it wants. That is why we put indoor feeders, so that no matter the weather, no matter the condition of the animal, it can still have its food. Water trough, same story. They need water while they are eating. Sometimes our animals feed on powdered hay, or they may feed on silage. Silage is dry, hay is dry. You may provide feeders inside, but then you're like, I don't have are worth giving them water. You will give your animals food and they will die. So you have to provide drinking water. Then functionality. We always talk about the functionality of the structure, and that's where this floor comes in. These spaces you see in the floor are not because we wanted to use less material, but rather it's because we actually want that when, for example, my water here in this trough is dirty and it's little, you know, very little of it is left. I don't have to carry this whole thing and carry it all the way down. As I clean it, the little water that is left can be poured through, and then it goes out without actually making this place. Okay, of course it will become wet, but then the water doesn't have to be stagnant. The same thing applies to animal urine. The same thing applies to the poop the animals produce. They go through those small holes and then out through the roof that is between these two structures, because we're talking about an integrated structure. So there's another set of animals down, but then there's a roof between them that keeps the animals below from the droppings on top. So onto the roof and then down into the trenches, right? That is one. Then also a bit of aeration from the floor, right? Anyway, this is the partition I was talking about. Later in time, of course, animals haven't been stocked here yet, but then when we stock our farm, one of those partitions, the ones for kids, is going to be wrapped with a polythene, right? So that, because as you can see, we are literally above the farm or the normal height of the ground. So up here it gets even colder and more windy. So the kids section has to be secured to allow temperature control in their room, not to make it so cold. And even those mothers that have just given birth, they tend to be weak. They need nurturing, get back to their normal lives. So we protect them from the weather, whether it's too cold, whether it's too windy, whichever it could be, keep them safe from that weather so that they start their growth journey well without getting actual problems that could become a problem later. These are other small things that you may not think about, but they're actually very important. When you construct a structure, a few things may make you, the person that uses it, very uncomfortable. For example, doors like this have to be like very firm. No longer, you don't need to, you know, fight with that door to actually get in or get out, right? It makes it easy. That way you know that even a goat itself, if it's energetic enough, it can come and knock the door. If you left it open, they get in without you having to keep coming up and down, right? Then, means of transition. As you can see, our building is a storage structure. So you have to provide a secure means on how to access structure. This is why we have a ramp, long as it is, high as it is. We have a steady landing, right, where animals don't have to rush into, you know, they get a bit of rest before they walk in. We have a guardrail so that when you're up here, you're carrying things, the animals are running out, you don't accidentally fall, right? And you can see it's high enough, it's almost taller than me, so that there are really less chances of you jumping off, falling off by mistake. Then let's look at our roof. As you can see, this ramp here needs to be strong, but the only way to be sure it is actually going to remain that way by protecting it from weather. Weather in this situation being the sun and rain. You may be like, Ate, there are trees. How does the sun affect them? How does the rain? When it keeps raining on these poles, right, and then it keeps drying, what happens next is going to be weakening or rotting. In times of severe rainfall, even if there is little heat from the sun, these poles are going to start rotting. So it's best you see our roof the way it's constructed here. We push it out past the ramp so that the water actually goes away from our wooden structure. Then on top of that, as we are still here and above the roof, as you can see, we have a gutter system on our roof. We always talk about the importance of water on the farm, and this could be collected to be used at the farm, or sometimes even to just control how that water, the runoff, because if you're not going to use it, then it's wastewater. How to keep it away from affecting our structure? Then we have to give it a flow so that it goes where we think it will have the least effect on our structure. So that is why we have that. Otherwise, please come with me as I keep showing you how this is going. Now, the roof. We always talk about the roof that keeps the upper structure from the lower. As you can see, you do not have to do or make this roof in a compromising manner simply because it's just covering up. Someone may feel like, hey, it's not an actual roof, it's an actual roof. So you have to make it very well so that you do not have to incur maintenance costs in a short period of time. So as you can see, it's perfectly done, even the other side, and the reason is simple: protect whatever is below it from the droppings of whatever is above it. So then I think from here we can see what we call our exercise yard. It is still a work in progress. We still have to clear it out, clear out the grass, these offcuts from our construction, clean out that sand that was from a well that was dug there. It has been sealed off so that our animals don't fall in with time. But our exercise yard has also been established. As you can see, it has been protected, has been fenced off, so that when the animals are down here, we don't expect them to run our garden. Meanwhile, we always talk about gardens. As we are still here, because we won't actually walk through that garden. As you can see, we have sorghum that side, we have napier up there, we have chloris and mulatto in the middle. It's not enough for our animals, but that is a starting point for the animals that will be stocked here. You understand? So this is a perfect example of a person or a client, a farmer that needs to use an integrated farming, because this land altogether where the animal structure sits is 0.8 acres. It doesn't even make 1 acre. But then, as you've heard, we are going to have 300 goats on top and you have 20 cows down, which is a big number. If you're going to build those structures standalone, you actually need more than 1 acre to have the structures planned. So it is why we talk about these things, so that you do not get discouraged from starting your project simply because you feel your land is not enough. Anyway, I want to emphasize the need of strength and how to plan that strength on your farm. How does this work? First and foremost, look at the pole we used for our structure. Do not start an integrated structure or set up an integrated structure with the heart that compromises your structure. You get. So these poles will become more expensive than the other poles or the usual poles you use for a good reason. On top of that, as you can see, down here, for those that have been watching, we had the first layer of concrete that was in the foundation, but we've even added a new whole upper layer so that it's over the ground. The reason is simple. We do not want our poles to be eaten by termites, and having this concrete on the ground level means that you've left this pole susceptible to any insects, rot, water, whatever that affects this pole that can flow over that concrete. That's why we push it over the ground level, so that when water is flowing, it flows where the concrete is. If termites are there, it's already treated with anti-termite. As you can see from that one or this one, they've been wrapped in PVC so water cannot affect them. But even furthermore, even termites, by the time it climbs up to here, that is a lot of work for it. Then even further, there's this wrapping. That means it will not come up to here to eat your pole. This gives your structure altogether a longer lifespan than for you who just plants them. I'm not saying if you can't afford all these, don't start, but then you have to know that in a short run you will have to start maintaining, which this client now doesn't worry about. Anyway, we still thank you for following our platform. For those that have seen this setup from the day we brought material, where we're just setting out, then to when we first set up this roof, before it even made sense, we were just standing poles. Thank you for following us this far, and we shall keep showing you the progress and giving you insights on what to focus on, what to maybe compromise on, so that you do not fail to start your project. Otherwise, I'm Saguya Hamis from Kimdi Group of Company. Thank you.